Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Kathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present. Hello, Kathy. How are you?
I'm really great. So tell us, who have we got on today?
Kathy, we have Belinda Stark. She is an alcohol and midlife empowerment coach and host of the Embrace Midlife podcast. She's a fellow podcaster. She currently lives by the beach with her husband. She's a proud mum of 2 adult children and a devoted fur mama to 3 mini Dachshunds. But Belinda's journey hasn't always been easy. She's walked through life's toughest battles, from overcoming depression and conquering breast cancer to redefining her relationship with alcohol. These experiences have shaped who she is today, and today she's here with us on The Change. Welcome, Belinda. Belinda, welcome to the Change podcast. We're so happy to have you here. And we were just having a little chat off mic and I was learning a bit about you. So I'm just wondering if you can tell us some more who you are and a little bit about your story.
Thanks for having me, girls. A bit of a fan of you too. So
Thank you.
Really appreciate you having me on. My story, it's quite colourful and it's quite eventful. I'll start in my 20s. Early 20s, I met a professional racing car driver and I was besotted, and we travelled the world with him trying to get into Formula One and what have you, and travelled Australia. And then I had my first son, Mitch, and my life really changed, as it does for mothers. And my priorities changed. So sadly, Mark and I split and I became a single mum with my and I did suffer postnatal depression, which wasn't really a thing back then, or it wasn't known as much as it is now. I'm glad it is now recognised more.
Yeah.
And looking back, I was really susceptible to depression because of the history in my family.
Okay.
So it was a tumultuous divorce and I didn't like being a single mum. I got quite lonely and I would do the typical, Bridget Jones had just come out, so I could play Bridget and all by myself with the bottle of wine and the fags and that was Linda.
Oh.
But I met my husband Andy, and we married. He's younger, so I've got a younger one that can push me around in the wheelchair.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, younger. I just wish he'd turned 50 now. It's time. I've got 1 more year to go. And we met. And
Where did you meet? And
at the local pub.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go, old school.
He's a garden designer and a landscaper, so I don't think I could go any further apart from the world of racing cars to plants. Anyway, we married and then we had our son Max, who is now 18.
Wow.
And I got very, very, very sick with him. I was, debilitating postnatal depression. And I was hospitalised and in and out of hospital for the first year of Max's life.
Awful.
At one stage, they were going to give me ECT, but I got onto lithium and that helped me, and I didn't have to have the ECT, but, it wasn't a very pleasant time. I've probably talked too much.
No, not at all.
No, not
at all.
No, that's not whinging. That's really traumatic experience.
So your early years, when you think back on those early years of being a mother, they're not particularly happy memories for you, really, are they? Yeah, no.
That's sad.
Yeah, and that can be really tough as well. Like I know a lot of women, you see them and they're glowing in their pregnancy or something like that. And I had very difficult pregnancies. And so for me, I always find that like that's a tinge of sadness for me too, because you just sort of look and you just wish that you had that journey. Yeah.
I agree. And it was like, because being a bit of a patsy perfect, do everything with Mitch, I think it's what to expect when you're expecting. And I was, he was posterior and there are lots of forceps and stuff. Whereas that wasn't meant to be. I was meant to have it exactly like the book.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure on women.
So that was your first son?
That was my first son. And then with Max, because I was susceptible to depression, and I did have depression during the pregnancy, we organised a Caesar. It was posterior as well and what have you. And knowing what I'd been through, no one thought I would get the depression back. That I did with a vengeance.
And did that kick in immediately, sort of after birth, or
much.
Wow.
And then the nurses saying to me, this is 2006, on day 2 of Max's life, you've just got a very, very sucky baby, and we do not promote dummies at all, but we're just going to have to give him a dummy because he's so sucky. And I'm like, what? Like, there's something wrong,
Yeah.
Not in a very good frame of mind anyway. And look at, I do look back with a tinge of sadness on both of the boys. However, I'm still here, and it's when I look back now, the personal growth of going through those dark days and learning so much. It had a silver lining. And I think I've just never really liked the little baby stage. I like it when they eat and walk.
You get that reaction and response.
You get a bit of feedback.
My vibe.
And that's, that's totally fine as well,
We're all so different, and so are the babies, the humans.
So what came next after? So you've had 2 babies, and they're how far apart? Like
10 and a bit years. Yeah.
Oh, apart?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay. So
Mitch is 9.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got one at school. We've got a newborn baby, dealing with lots of challenges and trickiness with that.
Yeah.
You're starting to come out the other side, and what comes next for Belinda?
What comes next for Belinda is she drinks a lot, because it's the mummy wine culture.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It really was.
And there's wine everywhere at, the play centres and everything. So she does drink a lot, but she's coping and keeping her drinking rules. But what comes next is Max goes to school and what have you, and I start working in a local fashion store. Was more cycle clothing. However, I was working there and everything was good. Yeah.
And had you, because we haven't spoken a little about your career to that point, had you worked in retail and fashion before, or was this just a new start for you?
Well, my very first job in year 11 was at Just Jeans. So I thought I'd come
an Aussie classic.
Full circle. But no, my background was with my first husband, I started working for him. So I was PA, PR, and that was my background. And so, I started working in this shop, and 2 years later, the owner of the shop was selling it, and she sat us all down and said, I'm selling my store, blah, blah, blah. And I went home and I said to Andy, my husband, God, I'd love to buy this. I love working here. And he was completely supportive. He said, do it. So I was lucky enough to own my home, and I got a business mortgage loan, and I bought the business.
Wow.
Yeah, huge. So this is 2014. I was 45, and I purchased this store, and I was so happy. And then a bit of a curveball, 2 weeks into owning the store, I got a call back from Breast Screen Australia So I got this call and they said, we've found something a bit sinister. We need you to come back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, I was in my car out the front of the shop ferrying down lots of new fashion because it was March and that's when a new season comes. And I was in the boot, had the boot of the car, the hatch open, and when this lady said this, I just sat into the boot of the car, crushed all the clothes and started bawling. And she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, because I might have cancer." And she said, no, look, it'll be nothing sinister. It's just 1 in 10, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I thought nothing more of it, toddled off and had the mammogram and the ultrasound, and more ladies were leaving the waiting room, and it just so happens I was that 1 in 10 and died of breast cancer.
Mm.
So that was huge.
Mm.
But I have to say, again, that silver lining, buying that shop and doing something I love and building it up and being so busy and so happy, I got through that cancer so well and with such positivity, and it was definitely my mental state.
Yeah. And just on that, I did see on your stories or on your profile the other day that you are clear. This is 10 years, that's right?
Wow.
Clear 10 years. So was
Big
my
milestone.
last appointment with my surgeon in March.
Yep.
And then it was my last appointment with the oncologist last week.
Yeah. So that's just wonderful.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
And she said, it's funny, both of them said at the appointments, well, I mean this in the best possible way, but I hope I don't see you again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. What
Yeah.
you want.
Obviously that was a,
Huge.
up and down time. I mean, you didn't just sail through it. No one just sails through that. So, I mean, we're obviously, you're telling that very sanitized version of that, I'm sure. So that was for a couple of years you were going through that. I'm just trying to think how long that journey would have been. I hate the word journey, quest, I don't know.
I didn't have to have chemotherapy, and I had daily radiation. And I would toddle off to the radiologist, and they'd always comment on your shoes because you've got this big machine. So I'd try and do a sales pitch. I know where you can buy some shoes. Yeah, and look, again, got through all of that treatment with really no side effects apart from with a sunburnt boob.
Yep.
And then I lived my life. The shop was going great. It was all new stock and I was buying. It was all beautiful. And then I decided I really, really, really want to design my own fashion brand, my own label. And that's what I did, because when I want to do something, I do it.
Love that.
So that Sassy Sister was born in 2016, and I went to Bali because you could do small quantities there, produce my own brand. And I did that probably till COVID struck. And then, I couldn't really do anything during COVID, but I did have Mia Friedman is a fan of my Sassy Sister.
Awesome.
I think I've got a few of your pieces.
He owns a couple of pieces.
I do.
I need to check it out. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm missing the party.
It's all about sparkles and love and
Yeah.
colour.
Oh, sounds right up my street.
You know that pink sparkly skirt that I wore on the last day at Mamma Mia?
Yeah.
That's a Sassy Sister.
Ah,
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
iconic.
That happened, and I just must mention that there was a lot of travel and buying, and there was a lot of drinking. So alcohol came in and out of my life a lot.
But a pretty big theme, right?
It was a
Yeah, can sense that is the theme. Yes.
Yeah. Then COVID was very good for my store because I stock the sort of stuff that women want in comfort. I had wearing one of our favourite brands that we stock. But also drinking and drinking, drinking and drinking. And we got out of COVID. I turned 50 prior to COVID, sorry. And I was just sick of drinking. I got to the point where I was drinking every night over a bottle.
Wow,
and looking for the second bottle. And there was a red flag in that I didn't want to take Max to any after-school events or pick him up from any sport because 5 o'clock was my drinking time, and that's what I do every night at 5.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. And it was like a reward, a deep stress, a release. And it's so easy to fall into, so very, very easy. So 2023, I was waking with shakes and disorientation, and there was no real rock bottom. I don't classify myself as an alcoholic. I'm a grey area drinker, or was. And I sent a text out to my kid, to Mitch and my mum and dad and my best friend. I said, look, I know I've got a problem, and if I'm honest, I have for a very long time. I have to stop. I want to stop. Please, can I have your support? And I had Mitch call me pretty much straight away, and he said, I'm going to get teary now. I'm so proud of you, Mum. I never thought you'd face this, and I love you very much. Yeah, so Christ, I'm crying. And that was probably a catalyst too. So I stopped drinking in January 23, and I just haven't looked back. It's transformed my life for the better on every possible level. Yeah. So I've given you a very long-winded.
Oh no,
it's fascinating. Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah,
you've had a lot,
and it's it's probably a very common story for a lot of women.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I mean, I haven't had a drink in 12 years or a bit over. Yeah, it was December 2012 was the last time. 2012, last time I had a drink. And so, it was an easy decision kind of to stop for me because I was, like, it made me sick. I was unwell when I drank because I had a liver issue. But the decision to remain not drinking is much harder. And obviously since then I've had massive, there's been huge life changes for me. And I've had to reflect on my drinking, and I know that I used it as a crux or a crutch or whatever, and I would, like you, I would use it as a reward if I, got the kids to bed on time, and I was, my husband used to work shift work. So it was very easy for me to drink alone. And it was only, for me, I wasn't drinking a bottle of wine a night, but I would have, 1 or 2 drinks. I probably had more than, I would have been over the limit if I'd had to drive the children to the hospital. Not drunk, not falling over drunk. The kids never saw me falling over drunk. They never had to pick me off the floor or anything like that. But I wouldn't have been able to drive them to the hospital and I can look back and see that. Much easier to do it looking back and reflect. So I know that my life is better without it. But I think it's a very common story for a lot of women. It's very easy to fall into that drinking culture. And I don't think we used to talk about it a lot. I think it's much more openly spoken about now. So
it was sort of, it is great. Yeah. It was sort of almost celebrated, that mummy wine culture was kind of humorous. And during COVID, there was lots of funny memes, but it was also damaging and people were distressed. And, it was not I can see why, you chose just after COVID to kind of to reassess and go, nah, that's it. I'm done. Yeah.
I think there'd been little clues along the way.
Yeah.
I was in that real Debbie denial mode. And, I was going to drink hell or high water. So, but there's often, and I know for me, part of drinking was to escape. I didn't really know what I wanted to escape from, but I found out it was escape from me because I didn't like me very much. And that's where the transformation begins. I think drinking is, for a lot of people, I think, mainly all of them, it's a Band-Aid for something.
Yeah.
And once you've ripped that off and you go deep and into you, the rewards are just incredible. Transformative. So but very common thing, Kathy, in midlife women too. And I've been asked to write articles and stuff about it. It's midlife women in particular, even compared to the younger generations, they're not drinking like we. And to get the message out there, there is no shame. You're not an alcoholic.
No.
You don't have to stop forever. You can just cut back and moderate and just change your relationship with alcohol.
I think that like Australian and British culture is the same. It's always been this big binge drinking culture, and it starts at 18, and it's, you know, kids. That's how we grew up, certainly as Gen X women, and I think the younger generations they're more educated, and you know, they've seen the damaging results in, you know, our generation and above for over drinking, and so hopefully they will change, and people understand that it can be very damaging for us, health and mental health.
Absolutely. So I guess, you know, you had quite the career shifts across along the way, you know,
life shifts,
and big life shifts. So you find yourself now working in coaching, life coaching, you know. So what sort of, you still have the business on the side and you're still doing all of that, but your main focus now is really that coaching and life coaching. So what drew you to that?
Alcohol brought me into coaching because I changed as a person. That once I got through the sobriety, I realised I really want to help women and help. Like at 55, it's time to just embrace it, live it, love it. And I just hear all the time, and even in the shop, I don't like my arms, or I'm not this, or I'm that. And just you don't want to feel like that anymore. It's your time to shine. You've got a bit more time. Let's embrace it. So I'm quite passionate about that. And because of everything I've been through, I know I can help other ladies. And it wasn't really to start helping with drinking. It was to help with their inner critic, their self-belief, confidence, and so rewarding. But a lot of the time it was women were drinking. So it's sort of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So basically from stopping drinking, my whole life has taken a path to serving women and supporting them, and I absolutely love it.
It's fantastic. And you've got a podcast, you're writing a book. What sort of big or little changes have you got still to make in life, do you think?
I thought about this question a lot. Change-wise, I would like to have finished with my beautiful store that's given me so much love. And I would like to be doing my coaching full-time and keynote speaking, published my book. But also, whatever changes happen, just go with them. Enjoy that journey, not just have anything, right, I want to change this, I want to change that, because, you know, you can have those goals and fabulous, but to be able to just go on this journey that the universe is taking me on.
And so not looking at early retirement or anything like that, it's just a complete career shift and move away from the business. And but please don't wind it up. It's one of my favourite online stores. So, we will put a link to the show notes.
Wind it up. It has to be sold to the right person. But look, who knows? But and the other thing I should add, and Mitch is probably listening, he hears it all the time, I really hope I'm a nana.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I really do. Not with Max. You're a bit young, darling.
Yes.
But Mitch and Eb, it's time.
Okay. Yeah. So are they, he's obviously got a partner and
very settled, and she's beautiful. So
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely when you see your children grow up and be happy, and that's all we can really hope for in life, isn't it? It is a bit of a long breakup, particularly as mothers of boys, and we've all got boys. I have girls as well, but it's very different parenting my son or mothering my son. Is very different to being a mother to my daughters, and they aren't going anywhere in a big hurry, and but like the second he got out of school and he could do his own thing and move, and it's not a breakup like you're breaking up with a partner or a boyfriend or anything like that, because obviously it's not that kind of a relationship, but it's a tug away, and boys start doing that throughout their teenage years a little bit as well, and I found with my son, at least anyway, he started gravitating more to his dad, because he didn't kind of have the same things in common. Like, I would go to all of his sports, I would drive him everywhere and do all of the things, and he loved that, and that was great as long as I didn't yell too much on the sideline of the football game or whatever. And he loved having me around, but Dad became his go-to. And so that was sort of the beginning. And then he has this beautiful partner, and then she really became his go-to.
Yeah.
But Dad is still his go-to. But he did ring me just the other day. He had some lovely news. He's been asked to act up in a leading hand or some senior role at work, which is lovely because he's only first year out of his apprenticeship. So they're recognising.
Still needs his mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're recognising some, beautiful qualities in him, which is really lovely. The things that we see in our children when they get recognised by others, it's nice. But it's it's a tricky time when our kids grow up and move away and move on, but that's what they're meant to do. That's what
I know, set them free, hey?
Yeah.
But it's hard as a mum, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a different way too as a dad. And it's not better, worse. It's just different.
Yeah, just different. That's right.
Have you heard that Amanda Keller?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's so relate.
Makes me cry.
Same.
Yeah.
But hey, I have a beautiful. They've both got beautiful girls, and that creates a lovely vibe in an old boy house. I've got 3 female dogs. Make it up. So it's lovely to have the girls and buy something fun for the girls, and
fun. You might get granddaughters too, right? So that'll be cute. That's what I'm hoping for too, but I'm a few years away from that.
I should hope so, Laura. Your children are very young.
Yeah, that's it.
I like that baby stage.
Yes, because they are give back babies.
That's right. They won't be your babies.
They are not your babies, and they are give back babies. They are the best kind of babies, I think. Our podcast is called The Change, and it's in part a reference to midlife, that experience that all women have, perimenopause or menopause. So we want to know, what's your feeling or experiences around the change?
Again, to embrace it, and change is good.
Even
if it might not look like it at the time. Good, and talk about it. And let's just support each other and build each other up. Change is good, and the change is pretty exciting.
What was your personal experience, if you don't mind sharing, of course, your experience of the change or menopause?
Because it was a estrogen-based breast cancer, I went on tamoxifen, or that's the drug I've just gone off 10 years ago. So it sort of brought on early on menopause quite sharply. Another bonus in life.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't do HRT or anything like that while you're on tamoxifen. So, the current research is that we really need estrogen in our bodies for heart health and bone health and all the rest of it. So is there any good news for you in that space, or not really?
Not really. I've been told no.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it's like you said, it's changing. The change all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say too, since stopping drinking, menopause symptoms improved out of sight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
And you obviously stopping drinking then has made you healthier in other aspects. Would you say? Has that increased your ability to exercise and all the things? Yeah.
Yeah. Your hot flashes pretty much. They didn't stop, but they're very few and far between. The anxiety, brain fog, but oh well.
Who doesn't?
Who knows? We all do. We've got devices and stuff, you know.
Yeah, busy lives. It's hard to know what's.
We're all a bit foggy.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, definitely the drinking helped with menopause. And at this stage, I don't think I can go on HRT. I personally would love to because of what is coming out, the evidence needing estrogen in our bodies. But look, watch this space. I certainly will be. And if I can, I definitely would give it a go.
Oh, Kathy, that was such an interesting chat. Belinda has certainly lived many a life, has she not?
Has.
Yeah, I was very interested by obviously her relationship changes over the years. That first one that sounded very kind of glamorous on the outside, but obviously was ultimately not good. But also her career in fashion and retail, and then moving into coaching, and how everything's really all come together for her in midlife, which obviously we love. We love to hear that kind of a tale, a story.
Sure do. And yeah, I mean, it's always good to hear those stories because we think we have to have it all done by the end of, our 20s or our 30s.
Yeah, 30 under 30 kind of list.
Yeah, but we don't. We don't have to have it done until we're in our, like we can be midlife. We can be just like Belinda, and it can all come together for us at the end,
Yeah, well, I have been listening to a different podcast where an 80-year-old fashion designer, Zandra Rhodes in the UK, talking about being in her 80s and just still smashing it out there. So, really, yes, women like Belinda and obviously us, we can still keep on. We can keep on keeping on, which I love that. And obviously she's had a lot of trauma in her life, gone through so much.
Cancer.
Yeah, depression, mental health issues, and a severe struggle with alcohol.
So she was at pains to say that she was not an alcoholic. She does not describe herself or she doesn't use alcoholic. She says grey area drinker.
Yeah, that was interesting.
For her, which and that's fine, but she decided that she needed to stop drinking. And she has cut it completely from her life. And what I thought was really interesting was that because she unfortunately, because of her breast cancer, she can't take HRT or any of those things. Yeah. So she was saying that once she'd cut alcohol out of her out of her lifestyle, it changed a lot of her symptoms, and it improved a lot of her menopause symptoms, and she found that she was able to cope with life a whole lot better without alcohol. So that's really important to remember that while we often reach for a bottle, it's, can be the first thing that we reach for when we've had a crappy day or we've had a good day. Sometimes it's better without it. And we have, with that clearer mind, we can cope with things just a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. And I think I really appreciated her honesty around that, because sometimes we think of alcoholics and we think of, I don't know, literally like a sort of homeless man in the park, right, drinking out of a brown paper bag. And I think there's a real stigma with that connotation, whereas she's talking about what many of us experienced during COVID especially, was that over drinking to compensate for not being able to go out and do all the things we normally do. And her description of that time and what she was drinking, I'm sure, is very relatable for many women, because midlife is a hard time. And I do, as you say, people do turn more to the things that we think are going to help us, but actually they make it worse. And I do think that was really an interesting point to be made, and something for us all to think on.
Yeah, and I certainly can't wait for the book.
Yes.
There's a book coming, and we'll definitely link Belinda's podcast in our show notes because we really love to support other women doing great things.
Yeah, so, she's a superstar champion.
Yeah, it was really great chat, and I'm glad that we were able to have Belinda on. Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.